We know the ATF's not listening, and all you folks out there.
I can't guarantee that.
It's legal to moonshine in West Virginia, and I tell a lot of people you can now move your still off your back porch and put it on your front porch.
Welcome back to the Dirt Drive Podcast.
You gotta say welcome back to your favorite podcast, the Dirt Drive Podcast.
We're spinning something.
This week, we're spinning a little bit. We're missing Tom, and we traded him out for Freddie. And we're missing Tom's house. We traded out for more whiskey. We're at Devils Due Distillery here in Kearneysville, West Virginia, the home of Freddie. Freddie. Not you're not from Kearneysville, but you're from West Virginia.
I am not. My wife is though.
And we're joined by, you're the distiller?
That's right.
He
Wylie
just
McDade.
glazes right over that.
I did used to live about 5 minutes from here though.
Okay. So yeah, we're joined by the distiller of Devils Due.
Yeah, Wylie McDade, owner Devils Due Distillery here in Kearneysville, West Virginia.
That couldn't be a more perfect name for a distiller.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Like, could have just been a Bob or a Dave. Nope, Wylie.
So what are we doing out here today, Mr. Wylie?
It's the name that they gave me.
Hey, man.
What are we doing out here today? Why are we out here, and why you got a bunch of Jeeps showing up?
Well, first, I'd love to thank you guys
Yeah,
for
of
coming
course.
out so
Yeah.
much. This is our third annual Jeep Fest
Oh, okay.
out at the distillery.
Nice.
We work with the local Jeep clubs around here, bring them in, park them all over the property, and then run, bands, cocktails, beer, have a good old time with everybody.
Heck yeah.
So it's just like a big Jeep party we like to have every year.
Just a community building event.
Yeah,
How many normally show up?
Oh, last year, well over 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
we had a Jeep on every square inch of the property out
I was
here.
gonna say it's a small lot. That's
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of Jeeps.
Yeah.
Oh, up and down the road too, but we can we'll jam them in
Yeah,
today.
make it work.
So what inspired the Jeep event?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, mostly a love of outdoors for us.
Okay.
Well, look, I'm a Toyota guy.
That's
I
fine.
drive a Tacoma, but I love to get it dirty. But my brother-in-law Brian, he's my partner here. He drives a Jeep. My son drives a Jeep. We've always been, Jeep people too. We've always had one around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we are not. We all own Jeeps, but we are not preferential to Jeep. We own Jeeps because they're the best multi-tool, but we love everything.
I'm a Toyota guy. I just can't afford one.
I tell you, I have to admit,
Fair
like
point.
we go, we do some back roading around here. I like four-wheel drive. Spend a lot of time at the beach.
Okay.
It's a little bit far from here. I was in the Navy 25 years, so like my ass was always near the beach somewhere, and a lot of them you could drive on. So we always needed a four-wheel drive. We're big Outer Banks folks.
Okay.
We love to go fishing down there. We like the four-wheel driving aspect of it. So yeah, I mean we're big outdoors guys. If we're not at the beach, you're going to find us down by the river, fishing for smallmouth. But there's always something tight you got to get in to get down there. If you want to find the good spots, you know. The regular people, they go fish by the bridge, but we like to go find the good spots, and sometimes that takes a tough vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're in a weird spot in West Virginia for off-roading, because West Virginia is a mecca of off-roading on the East Coast, but the Panhandle, virtually nothing.
You just got to know somebody.
Fair, you got to know someone,
Yeah.
but if you go further west into the state, it's not public. I guess it is public lands. It's not BLM, it's national forests.
National
and,
George
and
Washington
right-of-ways.
National Forest, and I think Jefferson is down there.
the
Monongahela
Monongahela
is down there. Yeah, they all meet up right in the middle of Appalachian. Like, what a better place to take a four-wheel drive. You got the Hatfield McCoy trails down there, which I don't even know how many miles there are, but it's a lot of miles down there on those trails.
So one cool thing, we're on West Virginia right now. One cool thing the three of us did earlier this year is we did a 24-hour rally, point to point over 24 hours, 600 miles all off-road in West Virginia.
That sounds like
It was
fun.
so cool. It was so originally when I saw your event, I thought it was with Backroads of Appalachia, which is our buddy Jed is the West Virginia director of motorsports for Backroads of Appalachia. I can't get any of this right.
Oh, we got to get him out here sometime.
Yeah.
He would
So
love it.
originally when I saw your event this year, and I'm like, oh shoot, BOA's doing something in Kearneysville. Like they're right up the road. And then I messaged Jed, and I'm like, he's like, no, that's not us. I'm like, holy shit. What motorsports is just growing everywhere.
That's just like pure warmth.
That's
That is
Ah, what did you taste? what you tasted
whatever,
right there.
whatever you put in front
Whatever
of us.
this was.
We call that one. Hey, let's switch gears for a
That's
second.
fine.
The boys are over here.
We
was
just
his-
did
it
it.
was
Take a little
Trevor's
snort,
fault.
you know.
We just did an episode where we called it our whiskey and slander episode. We would sit there and go, okay, pause the slander. We're going to talk about whiskey for a sec. So we're gonna pause right now because that was delicious.
So, what you tasted? This is the house's finest. We started you out with. We call it Port and Starboard. It's I have a little ships on the bottle, but it's kind of a throwback to my Navy days. 25 years I spent kind of traveling the world, me and the family. I had to retire sometime. There was a defense contracting job in my future, but it included a padded cubicle. And who wants to be in there?
Nope.
If I could describe to you the room here, we're surrounded by aging whiskey barrels and amazing
we're
smell.
recording. We've got it.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, this is a nice little nook you guys have back
Yeah,
here.
this
This
is
is
awesome.
awesome.
it makes for a pretty great office,
Yeah,
doesn't
it
it?
does.
So it's my cubicle, I couldn't stand those padded walls.
No.
But what you're tasting is our 4-year-old bourbon, corn, rye, and malt mash, aged 4 years in toasted and charred white American oak. But this one,
That's good.
called Port and Starboard, it's finished in wine casks. So it's
Okay.
been a
It's
fifth
really
year
sweet
in a
at the end.
Chardonnay
Yeah.
barrel. You pour Chardonnay into one of those French oak casks to put that buttery oak
Oh,
flavor
yeah.
all over it. We're
My
pulling
wife
it,
hates it.
We're pulling it back out now, all over that whiskey.
This
and
finishes
it
with the
provides that
Chardonnay.
sweet flavor on it.
Well, and it's got a nice warmth and spice to it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't burn. So like a lot of times you'll get the burn initially, but then the warmth kind of kicks in as the burn goes away, which is not bad. It just depends on the person, but that's super smooth.
Oh, that's no 80 proof whiskey either.
100.
100 proof on that guy too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tame it down a little? Throw a few pieces of ice in it.
Yeah.
Try it with an old fashioned. Oh man.
Oof.
Do you know
Lovely
why it's
taste of
called
orange
proof?
bitters.
Because it was burning to prove that there was alcohol in it?
Correct.
Hell yeah, look at me
Yeah,
guessing.
so they used to take it and they'd take a little bit of gunpowder and they'd put it in the top of the tin and they would light it, and depending on how well that was the proof, and then eventually it turned into this is the alcohol level. So your proof is double your percentage. So if you have 100 proof, 50%.
It was a very inefficient way to proof alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Now they require, excuse me,
What's it?
digital measurements down to 2 decimal places.
Okay.
You don't
Oh,
get that
yeah.
with the bubble test
Oh, the
or the
ABC.
gunpowder
Well,
test.
yeah, because you have like displacement tests where you can kind of gauge what alcohol percentage it'll be at. It's a lot of fun. Very scientific.
So the ABC isn't listening, and the ATF isn't listening. How did you get into whiskey making?
That's a pretty interesting story. There's
Because it doesn't seem like a lot of people that I know that do it didn't start off
Legally?
legally.
There is no school of distillation in the United States. And actually, I have to caveat that because a girl from university came in down in Kentucky about a month ago, and they've actually opened the first school of distillation down there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Of course it would be
supported
in
by the
Kentucky.
industry down there. Yeah, well, of course,
Yeah.
right? I mean, but that makes sense.
No, 100%.
There's a tremendous concentration of bourbon distilleries
Surprised it
down there in
took
Kentucky.
so long, because I feel like even before COVID, it was really blowing up. You had obviously like the moonshiners on TV and all that stuff, but I felt
Well, that was
like,
in Virginia.
Well, yeah, but it's like that really catapulted a lot of people
Yeah.
into getting interested in doing it. So I'm surprised it took as long as it did to get sort of like a formal place set up for that.
So at the end of the day, if you want to learn how to distill, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Getting a license to learn how to distill, I mean, first of all, there's not as many distilleries as are breweries and wineries for a number of reasons. Prohibition being the biggest one, and the fact that there's that feeling is still hanging around.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in all the state halls and downtown at the Capitol.
Bums.
But it is slowly going away. They're opening it back up. 15 years ago, I don't think I would have opened a distillery in this state. But the laws have been changing, and they're seeing, you come here to learn, as much to learn about whiskey as you do to taste it. We're not a bar, we're not a restaurant, we're a distillery. And if you're coming here specifically for that reason. So that there's a big agro-tourism aspect of it.
Yeah.
And we're gathering places for people, the tourism, the agriculture departments of this state. We have really good relationships with them. We take Jefferson County dirt, we turn it into gold over here. We take the corn from the land here, and we make these fine whiskeys out of it. It gives the farmers, we work with 5 farms in the county, and we're trying to expand that as rapidly as we can.
I was just going to ask that if you had like a primary or if you do like a mix.
Yeah, well, our primary is the Blues over in Shenandoah Junction. They have a 1,000-acre dairy. They grow yellow corn.
Oh, okay.
This stuff's made from the hard corn.
That's so good.
Cattle feed.
Okay.
You also make grits and cornbread out of it. If you turn the cornstarch into corn sugar, you make the number 1 ingredient in Coca-Cola out of it. It makes corn syrup.
Well, doesn't it also turn back into cattle feed after you're done with it?
It does. Well, actually, for us, it goes to the pig farm.
Okay.
So a nice little renewable resource right there.
Well, you make ethanol out of it. It's blended in your fuel. And if you eat meat in this country, you eat corn because every farm critter eats corn. That's that's like one of the primary diets. It's an incredible product. You grind it up, you get a bowl of starch. You add malt to it, you'll turn it into sugar. You could take that sugar, that corn sugar, you feed it to yeast, you'll turn it into alcohol. And starch and sugar and alcohol, if we go down to the molecule, they're not really that different from each other. A few little chains here and there get broken, and you can turn one thing into another in 1400, they call us alchemists, right? How do you take corn and turn it into aquavit? That's what it was back there, the water of life, A couple of thousand years before that, you were probably the shaman or the priest because they were the only ones who, could write down the secrets of how to pull the spirit out of something. That's what it was, That's why they call it a spirit, just because it's you're pulling the heart out of the mash. I got a vat of mash
the head,
over
the heart,
there.
and the tail.
Yeah, it smells like smells like beer. It's distiller's beer. It's full of grain. There's vats of it over there we could get the entire Eastern Panhandle drunk off of. We'd have to eat it. You know what I mean? And so that's why we use the still and we remove the spirit of the alcohol. In the 4 shots, heads, hearts, and tails, the different parts of the run that come out up to the distiller to make his cuts. Just pull out the best part of it. That middle part they call the hearts, and those hearts we barrel them. In these lovely charred white American oak barrels that if you're watching, you can see all around you. Slowly, they remove all of the lovely flavors inside of that barrel. The barrels are made of white oak, but think of a maple tree. You drill a hole in your maple tree, sugar will pour right out of the side of the hole. The white oak is full of the same sugar, and when they char those barrels, they caramelize those sugars inside, and the spirit that we pour in. Well, alcohol, if you classify as a chemical, is also a solvent, right? It's going to soak in and pull those lovely sugars out, and that's fully the other half. The
just
flavor
comes from the
bourbon.
barrel.
Corn whiskey, charred white American oak, water, grain, oak, yeast. You get those 4 things together in the right combination, and leave it in the barrel for a tremendous. Aging whiskey is like watching paint dry, but it's also equally as important of a job as it is making the whiskey itself. We have to shepherd these barrels. Sometimes they start crying. Man,
that one right there.
Oh, what a terrible day that is when you find whiskey all over the floor. It's like you might as well just throw it out. You know what I mean? Because it's just evaporating right off the floor. So there's a lot of work that goes into that. But as they sit in that barrel, which is watertight but doesn't hold, it's not airtight.
Yep.
The evaporation that's occurring, over the age of the barrel will lose about 20% of its volume.
And that's where you guys get the name, right?
Yeah, they call that the angel's share. And we say what's left in the barrel is the devil's due.
Yep.
Okay.
But you get this so you get this extraction. It's almost like making tea.
God, that's such a great name.
That's where Angel's
condensing.
Envy got their name from, because it was the angel's share, and then the devil's due is what they, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's what gets stuck in the barrel, what gets soaked into the wood.
That's the devil's cut.
That's the
devil's cut.
That's
Yeah,
what it is.
Well, that term was coined by a much larger distillery.
Yep. I know which one you're talking about.
And
I've
that
had that
distillery
before.
figured out a way to get that whiskey out of the wood.
If anyone remembers, it was Mila Kunis in the commercials that was doing that.
Yeah. There's so much whiskey locked up in that wood, they can introduce an entire spirit line to make millions of bottles.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's
One of
wild.
those big barrels behind us over here, if I fill that up, if it's fresh, tomorrow morning I can add 2.5 more gallons of whiskey to it. That is the power of the sponge of that wood.
You
overnight.
lose 2.5 gallons.
That oak will just suck all that whiskey up in there. And so it's all locked up in there over that time. Now, the white oak the grain is so tight, it won't allow it to pass through. Mm-hmm. Build your barrels out of red oak, they'll leak all over the floor. The liquid will come right through. It was, lost to time when the guys figured out that if you jam 2 pieces of white oak together tight enough, it'll keep water out of your boat. And like that, I mean, I don't
without
think about how long ago that was.
Yeah.
How long have they been using? They've been using oak barrels until they figured out plastic. Mm-hmm. It was the common container for everything around the world. Everything came in barrels.
The cool thing is, I was watching a kind of a side quest, as we called it. That's what we're going to start calling it. Is I was watching Dirty Jobs, and they were in New York. Yeah. They were in New York City, replacing the water towers on top of these buildings, and they still use white oak because it doesn't require sealant. It just seals itself with the water. As it swells, the wood closes up, I guess, and it locks in watertight. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the rings and everything help keep everything together, but yeah, it's wild how something just natural like that will just have those natural properties. So what did you just pour us? The root beer bourbon. Oh, this is going to be good.
So one of my favorite things about coming to a distillery is, I got to finish this one first.
My God.
Well, one of my favorite things about coming to a distillery is not only do you get to see, like, people can hear your passion, but we also get a history lesson of America. Yeah. Every distillery teaches you the history of America. It also teaches you like it's a full chemistry lesson. It's like as much as Americana as beer is, I feel like whiskey is even more American than beer.
Well, yeah, because they took it away and we said, go screw yourself.
We started NASCAR. We started everything. Hell yeah.
Alcohol has been part of the human experience since there were humans.
Yep.
I've read stories that back when, I mean, I'm talking about back before.
It was the first one.
Uh-oh.
He's slow.
Back before language, people knew that some fruits ripen better on the tree. Some would ferment. And when you ate those fruits, well, hell, they made you taste better. And they spent the next 200,000 years figuring out how to get that flavor and that feeling out of there. Alcohol has been part of the human experience. It has been celebrated. It has been villainized, and everything
Still
in
a little
between.
villainized today.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, that's why we call it Devils. I call it what it is. This stuff's dangerous. If you're not careful with what's in these barrels around here, you could hurt yourself or somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
Drink responsibly.
Drink responsibly.
It took us a long time to figure that out. Hey, we banned it in the country.
Yeah.
West Virginia banned it a decade before the nation banned it.
Silly West Virginia.
I love West Virginia, though. So as much as I love Virginia, West Virginia is by far my favorite state.
I always appreciate how, like, when you look back through history, you'll see how state mentality has changed with stuff.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people look at West Virginia today, one of the more lenient states with a lot of things, and yet one of the first places to ban the sale of alcohol.
Yeah. Well, so
and you're just like, what? That doesn't track
this
what
year
we know of the state.
This year they legalized moonshining. Also one of the first states to unban the home. Now, look, we know the ATF's not listening, and all you folks out there,
I can't guarantee that.
It's legal to moonshine in West Virginia, and I tell a lot of people you can now move your still off your back porch and put it on your front porch.
Well, just like growing weed in Virginia, it's legal to grow weed in Virginia now.
Up to a certain point.
And you can't sell it.
4 plants, and you can't sell it.
Yeah.
Pretty strange that that little river right over there separates our laws. So I started telling people, I said, well, the people on the other side of the river, they got different rights than you do. And now the people on this side of the river, we got different rights than they do. And what is going on in this country? Like, how can a river be the divide line? Is 6 miles from here and say, well, you guys can grow your marijuana over there and we can make our moonshine over here. Oh, by the way, if we trade, we're all going to jail.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like, it's craziness.
But that's what
I think a lot of people are
is,
starting to figure it out. It's craziness.
West Virginia is a wild state because it's so
wild and wonderful,
liberal with its rights. Like, you have whatever rights you want in West Virginia, but West Virginia is so conservative with their policies.
Yes.
Isn't it? It's such a juxtaposition for the state.
West
That's
Virginia's
a big
got
word for you.
Oh, I know.
That's a big
I've
one
been
for you.
studying.
What a history we have, though. I mean, you know, you're standing on frontier land at one point. When George Washington walked this land, by the way, his family owned thousands of acres. The Washingtons are still here. Charlestown's named after his brother. If you go to Happy Retreat, the home of Charles Washington, you'll find Walter Washington, the 7th generation son. And his name's still Washington. And I'm telling you, the guy looks like George Washington still. Like
teeth and everything.
Well, you know,
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Dentistry has gotten way better. But the history here, you go down to Harper's Ferry, the Civil War started there with the hanging of John Brown. The separation, West Virginia was torn from Virginia over that. You know, they decided, the history here is amazing. Brothers fought brothers right at Antietam around the corner. That's why people come here. They come here to remember. They come here to see. Well, they come here for good whiskey sometimes. Now, you know, we got bourbon and racehorses right here in the Eastern Panhandle. Why go any farther?
I tell you what, though, this one is...
you guys
let's talk about
tried
That's
the root
dangerous.
beer bourbon.
That's dangerous.
Oh, it smells like root beer.
I'm gonna give a plug to my friends Carl and Denise. They own Berkeley Springs Brewing up in Berkeley Springs, and they make amazing beer.
Oh, my
Carl
God.
makes root beer from scratch,
That's awesome.
and he and I worked 6-7 months on getting his root beer recipe just right so that it would accept single barrel 4-year-old bourbon at 125 proof.
That's so good.
And we'll proof it down to 60 in the bottle. And you get that really good root. Well, you know, I wanted it to taste like one of those little root beer barrel candies. This one's got a big bourbon finish on it. You take a melon baller. You know them little melon ballers? Yeah, use that. Get yourself a little bit of vanilla ice cream, drop in your shot glass. You pour that on top.
Oh,
There will be no bottle at the end of the party. I guarantee it. And all the ice cream will be gone.
I need to leave.
So I mean,
this
you
is
can do,
not fat kid friendly.
we make fun stuff, you know. Well, for adults, that's right.
Yeah.
Don't let your kids get in the root beer
we
bourbon.
are fat kids. That's what I mean. Fat kid friendly is us.
So I have 2 whiskey questions.
Absolutely.
Are you guys limited here on what you can serve to a person? I live like walking distance to Catoctin Creek in Purcellville.
Well, so for many years we operated under that where we were a tasting room.
Right, they can only serve like 4.5 ounces or something.
Yeah, and ours is much less over here. So we would allow you to get a taste, and then you could buy a bottle, you could bring it home, and then you could consume it there. We've applied and received our private club license. So
nice.
West Virginia has a new law, brand new law in the last year and a half, a private manufacturer's club license designed for distilleries, designed for wineries, designed for breweries, where we can then pour our own products here in cocktails. And getting over that hump,
it's a big thing.
I'd like to thank the West Virginia legislators that assisted in getting that done, because that really opens us up to, you know, I mean, now I got a band playing out front. You know, we got all these people here, give them something to do all day, because you come for a tasting and then I can't serve you anymore. And
it's kind of rough for a business too, because you want to use your product, you want to sell your product, and
so this was a point I was going to get to at some point is whiskey and motorsports has such a wild connection.
Oh yeah,
because
not at the same time.
Not at the same time, but it was at the same time. It was transporting whiskey. Was the start of NASCAR. And
calm down, Ricky Bobby.
Eastbound and down.
Loaded
up and trucking.
But like
good old Jerry Reed.
Like now I feel so weird talking about alcohol and motorsports at the same time, just because they don't connect anymore, and they shouldn't. I mean they should, but they shouldn't.
I got the name on.
Well, no. You go to a NASCAR race. There's plenty of alcohol connecting
around
with
the sport,
crowd.
Not in the sport.
Moonshine.
We should do
NASCAR and moonshine go like peas and carrots.
Oh yeah.
Well, I did it again.
Oh, you bum.
Side quest. We should do a history podcast on NASCAR.
We should.
Yeah.
And
I'd be down for
alcohol.
We we're pretty integrated into a few motorsports that are going on around here. Every year we make the championship bottle for the Jefferson 500 over at Summit Point. That's 3 years in a row. That's always a lovely bourbon with a really nice flashy Jefferson 500 label. We support Hagerstown Speedway. We got a car, the Devils Due car, run by
cool.
Tyler
Nice.
Fisher up there. Old number 32 car. That's
awesome.
our DS, our distillery number.
Okay.
And so we're plastered all over the side of that too. And so, I mean, there's a place for it. Obviously, not drinking it behind the wheel. But I mean, we do a lot of sponsorship stuff with these guys. Yeah, I mean, we love motorsports. Yeah, that's why you guys are here today. I mean, Jeeping is motorsports.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
then,
it's really becoming the
Just not speed based.
yeah.
Slow and
Well,
slow.
I think we've talked about it before on the podcast. Is Jeeping and off-roading is becoming the launching point for motorsports, is because it's so accessible now and it's so affordable. Is you could take your stock 4Runner, because I assume that was your 4Runner up front.
Yeah.
You could take your stock 4Runner and run that 600-mile route that we did. It's completely stock friendly. Not completely.
There was
stock.
4 Subarus that did it. A Neon did it. A Neon.
Yeah, Dodge Neon, two-wheel drive, front-wheel drive.
Neon.
That was-
from the 90s.
that was pretty fun.
Not even a newer one.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
I don't
yeah,
think there are newer Neons anymore.
They stopped
They-
in like 05.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was mid.
They did the Dart. The Dart was the Neon
Yeah,
until
That means
and-
next year all Neons are classics, right? 20 years.
25 years. 25 years in Virginia. I don't know what it is in
Well,
West Virginia.
that's antique. Classic in some places is 20 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
Maryland has classic and it's
Yeah.
20.
Okay.
Virginia's just weird.
We should have an antique neon show out here sometime.
That'd be
Make everybody
dope.
show up.
That'd be dope. Car shows are so
you know what?
cool.
I bet more people would show up than you'd think, and you'd be like, "Man, I didn't realize this many neons were still on the road."
Nobody would be able to afford to buy any whiskey, though. Sorry, shout at the neon owners.
So then,
That's terrible.
what was the time period for you to start this and then be able to sell whiskey? Because obviously you can't make it today and
Yeah,
sell tomorrow.
we started. We built a prototype still in 2015. Mostly, we just wanted to see if we could do it. Little bitty thing, 5 gallons. I had my buddies taste it. Small copper still, single thumper, little coil, condenser on the end of it. Whiskey would just barely drip out of it. Might get a half gallon or less. But a lot of it was learning about grain, learning what went in, how to keep yeast alive. That's a tall order. There's a little bit of chemistry that goes into that, and we know a little bit of chemistry. I have people come in and say, "Oh, you sound like you know a lot about chemistry." I said, "No, ma'am. I know very little about chemistry.
I know
but
just
the
enough."
little tiny section that we know, we do pretty good at.
Yeah.
There's a lot of water chemistry that's involved. You got to start with that before you even think about laying down grain or laying down yeast, and then how you grind your grain, how you mix your grain, how you cook your grain, when to add your malt, because the delicate enzymes found in malt are heat sensitive, and you'll destroy them, and then you ruin your product if you don't put in at just the right time. So temperatures are also very, very important around here. Adding our yeast and then making sure that the nutrient levels are right in the mash so that they'll actually stay alive. They're producing alcohol in a vat, and alcohol is toxic to just about everything. So you need you need just the right yeast too. Good Lord, if you looked at my supplier's yeast catalog, it'd boggle your mind how many different yeasts are out there. A lot of these are for the brewers and the winemakers, but they're yeast specific for whiskey and rum and all of those other spirits out there too. And then you need to be able to maximize that alcohol production. So then we have to learn a lot about efficiencies. How are we gonna? I mean, if you're not converting all of your starch to sugar, or you're not converting all your sugar to alcohol, and you're leaving something behind, well, that's like leaving money on the table, and we don't want to do that. And then learning how to bring that little 5 gallon still up to 150 gallons and run it commercially. Now, we won't even get into
Just
the
the
licensing
ratios,
that goes in
yeah.
just to be able to turn it on. You know what I mean? And then get that whiskey to taste good coming out the other end. You run it too hot, you run it too cold, it affects the flavor. You got 5-6 different knobs up there. If they're not turned just the right way, it affects the flavor. Everything affects the flavor. If you come to me for consistency, well, you came to the wrong place. You know what I mean? We open top ferment in the summer. It's hot. Our yeast does one thing. In the winter, it's cool, and the yeast does another thing. And that always affects the flavor.
Sure.
And that's
This is also
that's the
a-
only thing I'm concerned about is that what's that whiskey tasting like?
This is also a non-conditioned warehouse, so that really does affect
Oh, absolutely.
everything. I mean, see, you got your little heaters hanging in the ceiling, but it's no AC in here.
59 degrees is the minimum I let it be in here in the winter. In the summertime, though, Remember when we talked about caramel inside of that wood?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, caramel runs better in the summer. Heat ages whiskey. These barrels, we want them to get nice and warm. Bourbons are young whiskeys, right? They're 2-4 years old. You see them out there with big age numbers on them. And those are out there too, and you're going to pay out the nose for them. But you look at scotches. Scotches are old whiskeys. These are 8 to 15 years old on the average. These are, so we're like, so 2 to 6 in the United States, 8 to 15 over in Scotland on the typical aging periods and I'm talking about the vast majority of the whiskey. Aging's like a pyramid, that the stuff at the top, the really old stuff at the top of the pyramid, was not very much of it. You know what I mean? In the world, in the grand scheme of things, because only the finest and the best are left, and boy,
which is, it's kind of a back to my favorite word, a juxtaposition, is you think the best stuff would be drank first and the bad stuff would be left over sitting on the shelves, but whiskey's the opposite.
Most alcohol is.
That's like heavily caveated, though. The older the whiskey gets, the more dangerous it is to leave in the barrel. In 3 years in our warehouse.
What does that mean?
It'll blow up.
In 3 years in our warehouse, we'll evaporate 15% to 20% of the volume that's inside of the barrel in 3 years, in 4 years, somewhere in there. By the time you're in a hot, dusty warehouse, by the time you're at 15 years, there might only be an oil slick left in the bottom of the barrel. And so long-aged whiskeys, that's a whole nother level. It would take me 30 years, 40 years to make a 15-year-old. These are generational things. Right. Well, they say a distiller has maybe one shot at a 15-year-old. You got to make one. Then you got to wait 15 years to see how it turned out.
I can barely
then
wait
you get
15
one
minutes.
shot.
Yeah, I know.
You get your one shot to make your change. Well, I like it, but if I had to do it again, I'd make these changes. And then you got to wait 15 more years to see if the changes you made were right or not.
That's fair. Yeah, I'd
So
never
you
even
can-
thought about that.
And see, there are distilleries in this country that are hundreds of years old. Hell, we could never be better than them. I wouldn't even try, right? I mean, I wouldn't even ever tell you that. But I can tell you we're different, right? We've got some. Instead of that, I tack lots of
so
different
good.
mash bills. Like, we have 15 different mash bills back here, and we try crazy stuff like root beer with a bourbon.
It's not crazy.
But
It's delicious.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
delicious, right? But just in A, so we have something you might be interested in, but B, just try and be a little bit different.
You got to stand out somehow.
Yeah, and that's it. You can't be better. So if you can't be, then what is you'll always strive to be. So what's the angle? Well, you can't get it anywhere else. If you like our flavor, you can't get it anywhere else. So that's what we got. That's all we got, and we maximize on that.
So we were talking about water. Do you guys get your water from locally, or do you get it from Berkeley Springs?
Well, our water comes locally into the building for our mashing, for our whiskey production, and it'll go as far as our mash tuns. Now, our mash tuns have the raw mash in them, and we're going to remove the spirit from that. Now, that spirit that comes out, that's going to eventually go directly to your lips. So any water that we put in afterwards, because there's proofing that's done before it goes in the barrel and after, that's brought in from Berkeley Springs.
Okay.
And that's brought in from the water company up there. I tried it out of their artesian well up there, but it's so heavy. That water is so mineralized that it clouds my whiskey upon entry.
Interesting.
So the water company up there does very minor filtration on it, but all the good stuff is still in that water. It's very well balanced. And then we have that trucked in. So anything that's going to go to your lips is proofed right out from the Berkeley Springs aquifers.
Yeah, and Berkeley Springs is really cool because it hosts the annual World Water Fair, and they win every year.
Yeah.
Every year. They've got the best water in the world in Berkeley Springs.
It's where all the sommeliers go.
It's wild.
People used to go there for the healing power of the water. Now they've, for some
George
reason,
Washington has a
bathhouse.
a
Right?
bathhouse,
We
yeah.
went there.
I guess he had one. He's dead now.
People discount these things nowadays. They look at that as that's just old wives' tales. Yeah, it's a bunch of
Hey, man.
I don't know. I mean,
we did the so when
Water feels pretty good going down, so
Yeah.
you met my wife earlier. When we got married, we did our honeymoon or our mini moon at Hot Springs, West Virginia, at the homestead.
Oh yeah.
And we'd gotten the hot spring. Dude, it was. I was like, it seems like a bunch of hullabaloo. with the fun word today. It was a bunch of hullabaloo. But the hot spring,
He's got to repeat it.
Yeah.
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Like,
First of all, it's not hullabaloo. There has been many studies done
Oh,
on the effects of hot springs on the body. That's why there's so many over in Japan and why they live for so long.
but sitting,
Hullabaloo only in your brain, buddy.
yeah, in my brain. But the water in this region is unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's because it's untouched. It's not. They haven't messed with it.
Limestone aquifers here.
Yeah.
All there's some shale, and it gets worse when you get north of here in some places. But the same vein of limestone runs clear all the way up through Pennsylvania. They make great rye whiskeys up there.
Well, the way that we go back home, there's several natural wells.
Yeah.
You just stop alongside the road and fill up your
What,
water
on
bottle. One's on Route 50, and then there's another one, but I don't remember where it's at.
So is that an older bottle, and are those newer bottles? The rounder ones newer bottles?
No. This is just a half bottle we
Okay.
do. Anything in the half bottle that's up front, we sell quite a few of those. Those are done in the quarter cask here. These are 2-year-olds.
And that's these guys, the
little-
smaller
the
ones.
15-gallon barrel. A lot of young distilleries will age in smaller barrels because the extractions occur faster, the evaporation occurs faster, the breathing, and so we can bring I think a lovely robust product to market just a
Quickly.
little bit quicker. We've recently discontinued 15-gallon barrels, and so we'll sell through those. And now that we got our establishment under us, we'll move solely to 53s.
So are these all 15?
Yes. Yeah, so the 53s over here behind us, the big ones, and then the little 15s. You see, you can't see behind your camera, but there's a stack of 2 53s and 4 15s over there. I brought in 350 pounds of cherries on earlier this week.
Oh.
Pitted them all in-house and stuffed those barrels full. Those are going to be our cherry bounce we're going to release at Christmas time.
Well,
I know what we're doing at
Coming
Christmas.
back.
Amazing.
We'll have to do back-to-back whiskey episodes again. We'll have to go to
Yeah.
Kayla's and go to her speakeasy, and then come here.
We should bring her one of these bottles.
We really should.
That
has a beautiful nose on it. It's a
that's
nice,
our
deep, like rich caramel nose
prime.
to it.
So Trevor was a bartender.
Oh yeah.
So that's how he knows these words like nose and flavor profile and depth.
The prime
Yes,
bourbon.
depth. Such an uncommon word in this
intense
world.
word that nobody ever uses.
What's that one I'm thinking of? Depth. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I haven't pulled that one out in a while.
That's one of Brian's brainchildren right there.
That is
It's a
fantastic.
4-grain.
That's fantastic.
Corn, rye, wheat, malt. This one pretty heavily wheated. That's prime. We call that prime 1. Each one of the percentages of the grains are prime numbers.
Okay.
I
the
love
proofing's
the-
always done to prime number.
I love the label.
And we're on prime 13 now. We've released 1 and 2. Every single time we do a new mash bill run for them, we completely change up the percentages in the 4 grains. So that we're intentionally making them each one taste different. For the idea that you can come by and, you can try, it's almost like a vintage.
Yeah.
You can try this year's on our 4 grain, see how it is. And we'll have these releasing for years now. We've laid down like probably 4 or 5 years worth of them.
Oh, wow.
So every quarter or every couple months, another one will come out, and it'll be a completely different mash bill.
So how did you go from the Navy to being a distiller? You said there was a defense contractor in there somewhere, but you
Oh, there could have been, right?
Yeah.
Like, me and Uncle Sam, we split on great terms, right? I got my retirement. I had options to go back into government work. Hell, I'd probably be making a lot more money.
you're having less fun, but making more
But
money.
but the trade-off was, there was an
Losing
office
your
building.
mind.
Yeah.
So instead, we built a building during the middle of COVID. It opened up during the middle of COVID.
Yep.
That's when everyone needed alcohol.
got lucky on that one.
Dude, I drank every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So does the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there was a little more anxiety and depression going on during that year and a half.
Fair.
Well, the alcohol industry boomed. But
Oh, yeah.
Why did it boom? They were one of the industries that the government left alone and let open and
Well, did
stay
you-
open.
Yeah,
Did you guys
because
get
they knew if they
screwed?
didn't, people would riot.
Did you guys get screwed with the hand sanitizer stuff?
No,
Did they come after
we
you?
came in a little too late,
Okay.
so we didn't produce any. But I know a lot of distillers that did.
And they got taxed heavily
Did
and
they really?
fined heavily afterwards.
Yeah.
Well,
Catoctin
that all got nipped in the bud quick. I think.
Catoctin got hit with a threat of like a $100,000 tax or something, and it was like a big
The
thing.
government tried to charge them excise tax on hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
An excise
That
tax
they
is
asked
reserved
them
for drinking alcohol.
to make.
Yeah, that they asked them to make.
And they gave away for free.
Yeah.
Like, that was the wild part. They were going to get hit with a
pretty cool,
$100,000 tax for a product they gave away for free to emergency responders and all that stuff.
Government.
Government.
Yeah,
Distillers
something like
were
that.
part of the solution on that one, though. Like it was pretty cool how they almost were nationalized.
Yeah.
Got together and they all met the call, until the big guys could catch up with demand. Mm-hmm. Once that happened, there were a lot of distillers that got shafted on that pretty hard. They got left with thousands and thousands of gallons of unbought hand sanitizer that they produced. And then, I don't know, name a big chemical company. Once they got online and started really pumping out the Purell or whatever it was.
Good old
then-
Johnson & Johnson.
Then all that went away, and your hands didn't smell like corn whiskey anymore.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, the one from Catoctin smelled like gin.
Yes,
It smelled like their gin. I'm
It
like,
was
wow.
fantastic.
I could drink this, but I'm not going
It
to.
was fantastic.
Don't lie, you tried it.
I didn't. I'm not a gin drinker.
He-
Actually, the
he's
wild thing
not.
is
He's
the
not.
wild thing is I'm not a big drinker at all.
Your
like-
physique wouldn't really allude
Oh no,
to
I'm a
that.
fat guy, but I'm not a big drinker at all. I have fallen ever since our first episode with Kayla. I've fallen into loving whiskey. It's more of a love for the cool history of it, like
Yeah.
the flavors, the good ones I really enjoy. I can't afford the
You
good
don't
ones.
enjoy the bad ones?
No.
Oh, okay.
I enjoy
But it's
all
more,
of it.
It's really more of the history for me. The history of whiskey is so cool.
Yeah.
Nerd.
That's fine. That's why we're the dirt nerds.
This country's got a long one. Nobody can tell you where bourbon actually came from, when the different
Kentucky
types
will
of whiskey
try.
will start. Of course they will.
Yeah.
Most people agree that it was around the 1780s. You look at a map in the 1780 and tell me where. Oh wait, that was Virginia.
Yeah.
Hell, West Virginia was still a part of Virginia back then.
Suck it, Kentucky.
No,
So-
no, I don't ever talk bad about, not publicly, talk bad about Kentucky.
So back to how you got into whiskey from your time in the military. How did that happen?
I mean, you join the Navy, you do see the world. And I sampled spirits from all over. I mean, we were in the Navy, sampled spirits from all over the world. I knew I wanted to make something. My brother knew he wanted to make something. He was retiring too. We just always seemed to be sharing a glass of whiskey when we were talking about it. And finally looked down my hand one day and said, why don't we try making this? One thing led to another. We built a little prototype still. That was probably back in 2015. We really started to, see if we could understand it. And then
So you started making it with the intention of production?
with the intention of, if this works, if we think we can make a product that tastes good, we're going to scale up and give it a try.
Hell yeah.
And then I spent the rest of the years, all those years, working. It was all government paperwork. There is a
All paperwork.
tremendous. There's a very hot. There's not. Distilleries aren't popping open rapidly right now because the bar you have to meet is very, very high.
Yeah. Yeah, my father-in-law is the VP of a small construction company, and the president is trying to open a distillery in in Hillsborough.
Yeah.
And he's going through the jumping through the hoops of everything.
You got to start with the Fed, and the Fed has very, very strict rules on exactly how a distillery is laid out, down to your walls, the locks on your doors, where your electrical plugs are. Alcohol vapors fall to the floor, so our plugs are all at 42 inches.
I did notice that. Yeah, your
much
plugs were very
higher.
high.
Because alcohol will reside on the floor at about 18 inches, and it likes to fall there. And so if there was ever a leak, in the still, and there was a lot of vapor coming out. I mean, at that point, it would kill everyone in the room. The toxicity level of alcohol in the air would kill you before it would be ignitable. But if that were to happen, that's how you have terrible distillery accidents.
Yeah.
And so you have to prove to them that everything is, everything is going according to plan. If you look around here, you can buy a big still, and you can put it in. The installation package is typically going to cost twice as much. That's something that you don't think about maybe all the time when you go out and purchase some very expensive equipment. It's going to cost you twice as much and take you 4 times as long than you think to open a distillery. And once you pass all the federal guidelines, then you have to convince the state, and the state will put you through the same rigmarole. And then you've got to get plugged into the tax system. And both of them are going to take their pound of flesh out of you. This industry in particular is taxed abnormally compared to the typical small business. And I mean very, very highly taxed, abnormally compared to your small business. The state and the government have been, the only thing more regulated than alcohol
Drugs.
is probably banking. In the whole history of the world. I mean, they've been...
Those two go hand in hand.
Yeah, but I mean, we've talked about, we've had this love affair with alcohol since recorded history, since the dawn of time, and they've been regulating it ever since, right? And those have just stacked and stacked and stacked. And then we had Prohibition thrown in there where they just banned it. And then, West Virginia never even repealed Prohibition. Prohibition is, alcohol's tolerated in this state. The government, state governments control every aspect of your alcohol consumption. You go to Virginia, they control the centralized warehouses, the trucks, and the stores.
Yep.
In West Virginia, they control the centralized distribution. Mom and pop own the stores, and that's the only place.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize.
But it's the only place you can buy a bottle. So I mean, it's the amount of regulation on this industry is just.
Yep.
I guess I've never bought a bottle of alcohol. I bought beer in West Virginia. I've never bought like a bottle of whiskey, tequila, or rum.
Tequila?
Yeah.
Tequila.
I mean, in Maryland, the beer and the wine are wine are sold only at the liquor stores in most places.
Yeah, I was going to say Virginia's a little weird for that because you can buy beer and wine in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And I love when people come to visit. They're like, all right, we're going to go to the liquor store. Like, we're not getting that torn up. Like,
go down to Sheetz.
What are you doing? Like, oh, we're just getting some beer. Dude, go to the gas station. Go to Giant. Like, what are you talking about?
That's where I get gas and food, though. They don't sell liquor or beer there.
No, now all the Sheetz have beautiful beer walk-ins. Sometimes in the summer, you just walk in there just to cool off.
Yeah.
If I want to distribute, every state has a completely different set of rules.
So where are you guys sold at?
Throughout West Virginia. We've got really good penetration throughout the entire state. And we're now growing in Maryland. I'd say we're probably in about 30 or 40 stores in Maryland and growing. We got a bid in to go into Virginia this year.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
And I have a growing amount of distribution down in South Carolina.
Wow,
right.
really?
Yeah, we have some limited stores in North Carolina right now. So
okay. Hell yeah.
We're trying now to focus on those places, the places that are close to us, and it'll take us years, and we'll grow out those distribution lines, and then very slowly I'd like to creep up the North Coast. We're looking at Delaware and New Jersey right now.
How does online sales work? Because I know there's a few states that allow online sales, and you can have it shipped to your house.
We don't ship to the consumer. The rules there are also really
wild.
hairy.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's pretty heavy liability. We play by the rules. Every state has really heavy rules, and if you screw up on those rules, that's when the ATF shows up with guns. Like,
well,
and I'm telling you, they're serious as a heart attack about this stuff.
That's what I think people forget is like they always hear ATF and everyone always jumps right to the firearms part of that, and it's like, guys, there's two things before that, and they take those a lot more seriously. Yeah. Like you get caught selling cigarettes somewhere that you're not supposed to.
Oh my God,
that's
if you don't have your stamps. Oh boy, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, we just started selling cigars, and like I was on the phone with. I'm still on the phone with the state. Hey, look, how do I collect these taxes? What do they look like? And also heavily taxed.
Yeah.
And they want their money at the end of the month, all the time, every month.
God forbid they give you some back on time. But, man, if you're late, whew.
Don't be late.
Don't be late.
No, you always take care of the man first.
Yeah.
We deal with the man. The man is everywhere. When in this industry, that man is everywhere.
I'm surprised he's not sitting outside your front door half the time.
He probably is. He's probably driving by a few times.
Probably is.
I don't know. We're locked up in the back of the distillery right
Yeah,
now.
hell yeah. It's a good place to be locked up.
Just open the door and be like, who are you? I don't like the way you look.
Almost as good as a bowling alley.
Metal sliders in the door. What's the password?
What do you do for fun recreation outside of distilling? So you have your Toyota. You said you go down to the river and do some fishing.
You own a small business, you're pretty much handcuffed to your business. But when we get out, we get out locally. We go, we'll get out to the beach.
What part of the
fishing.
Outer Banks do you go to?
I mean, I've always loved Ocracoke.
Okay.
If you go down there,
We go to my wife's family. Every year they go down to Topsail.
Oh yeah, I know it.
Yeah. So that's where one of these bottles is going to be going this year.
So where did they go? One of the clubs they're not a club. They're like us. They're an off-roading group. F-Bomb Overlanders. They do an annual trip down to, it's an island that you need to take a ferry to and it's only camping on. In the Carolinas, I can't remember the island, but they do it every year.
That is a fantastic plug there, Timothy.
I know. Here,
I'm going to tell you about this idea. I don't know anything about
it.
I don't know
Lookout
where it is.
is on the island, but they are big about their.
I know the one you're talking. The Bald Head?
No. Fuck. What's it called? But that would be a fun trip to do, and that's actually one that I'm really looking forward to doing with them. Fuck.
Sorry,
Tim is Googling. Cape Lookout. What the fuck is this island?
You are a wonderful producer. You always have all of your stuff together.
And he was late.
I'm super proud of you.
I was late. I don't know. It doesn't say it on Google Maps. I'm bad at this.
We know.
Fuck. Where's that island?
So what do you have? What's your favorite?
Bourbon.
Well,
We make bourbon here. Like that's what we make is whiskey.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, in the big overarching market, right? It's got a B on the bottle, and that's what people want. They want bourbon, they want gin, they want vodka, they want tequila, they want scotch, they want rum.
Yep.
These are the big ones. We anchored on one of those. Right? We're going to become the best bourbon makers we can because it's that is the thing. Well, that's the one thing that always sells. Like we sell more bourbon than anything
American.
else. Yeah. But I've got rye whiskey and wheat whiskey in here. These guys right here.
You got barbecue sauce.
Used bourbon barrels over here. They're full of rum.
Barbecue sauce is incredible.
That barbecue sauce is fantastic.
That's homemade right there.
Do
you can only get that if you come over for breakfast.
Do you guys sell that?
No, we don't sell it.
Damn it.
Ken makes it.
Damn.
But rum.
Can that bottle fit in your pocket?
Yeah, it can fit in my car. I can tell you that much.
Twice a year, we bring in about 3,000 pounds of molasses. We distill, I don't know, maybe 8 barrels of rum. Those go, but rum is traditionally aged in used bourbon barrels, so my barrels get a second life.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Before they become flower planters or signs.
Do you sell them
barrels,
as a barrel, like for decorations?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to sell you one. We'll talk about that right afterwards. But
Don't let your wife know.
They will, they'll lose their. Well, they'll just become a vessel.
Yeah.
Right. There's not much
There's no
flavor left to give in them. The bourbon they can only be used one time for bourbon.
Yep.
But we're
Which is why
extracting
it's
all
so
the
expensive.
very
because you're
expensive.
always buying new barrels.
That's why we make rum. All Scotch, and I say almost all, but I bet well over 95% of Scotch in the world is aged in used bourbon barrels. Right, so the barrels get long lives.
They get sent to the wine companies, and they finish them off into bourbon barrels.
A lot of the breweries are doing the same thing.
Tequila,
Yeah.
some rye whiskeys, even some wheat whiskeys, corn whiskey, rum, gin. All these things are being used, But a lot of these, they like the used bourbon barrel, and I like it because if you want to accentuate the flavor of something and you don't want to put that bourbon flavor on it, because you put a new barrel, you're going to get that bourbon flavor on it. That's why the Scots like them. They spend all their time smoking their malts, and they want that flavor to come forward. Now it still has plenty of oak and smoke to give, but the bourbon's removed. Have removed pretty much all the sugars out of the wood. So they're a more neutral vessel But when that alcohol needs to sit, that's what's giving you that good smoothness on the alcohol. And you can't get that. You know, when it comes off the still, I tell people, still got that barnyard flavor all over it. Heavy grain flavors on it, and it's rough on the edges and stingy a little bit.
Very moonshiny.
Very moonshiny, right? But you put it in that
that's
barrel
what it,
for
at
a
that
couple
point, that's
years.
what it is.
You let the volatiles kind of evaporate slowly out of that barrel, or oxidize into other lovely compounds. That's where you start getting layers of flavor in it, and it smooths your whiskey. It takes those rough edges off it, and give it long enough time, it puts that good bourbon flavor on it.
Well, I think people forget too. That's where a lot of the color comes from too.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah, it's like it comes out clear.
It comes out of the still crystal clear. But you want to get that lovely flavor on there, that lovely color on there. That's all from oak.
Do you guys ever? Because I know like one of my favorites is Angel's Envy, and they finish theirs in port wine barrels for like the last 6 months. Do you guys have you tried any of that?
Well, you tasted our Chardonnay cask finish.
Oh, it was so good. Oh, my
and
God.
this year we're in talks to bring in 4 port barrels.
Okay, I love a good port barrel finish.
Yeah.
It gives it such a nice richness and smoothness. It just
So this year's port and starboard will be done in port barrels.
that's awesome.
And that should be released somewhere between 6 and 12 months after the whiskey is entered. It's illegal to age whiskey on French oak.
Yep.
But we're going to put it in French oak because these port barrels are all sourced from France. But what I mean by that is the whiskey must spend its bourbon must spend its life in new charred white American oak barrels.
You can finish it
in the.
So the 4-year-olds will go in, and then I could leave it in there for 10 years. But I could only ever call it 4-year-old bourbon.
How long does it have to sit in that bourbon barrel to make it a bourbon before you can take it out? I don't know why I did the bourbon because it is bourbon.
There is, it doesn't have to sit in that barrel for, hell, you could put a hole in the bottom and pour the whiskey through the barrel and call it bourbon. But
wouldn't taste very good.
is it going to taste like bourbon? No. Now, there's a lot of guys out there that are trying to speed that process up. We do it in the small barrel, and that will generate a product that comes to market faster. There's a guy in Cleveland using a hyperbaric chamber.
Okay.
He turns
increase the pressure.
Increase, decrease. He says he can age his whiskey 40 years in 24 hours. You know, I tasted it.
Excuse me?
I was prepared to be underwhelmed. Tasted pretty good.
Where's this at?
Very vanilla forward.
Huh. I mean, I could
the distiller, and look, I might, if you go to the website and I've misspoken, I apologize. It's a place called I think it's called Cleveland Whiskey or Cleveland Distillery. But this guy, I read his story. Ex-Navy, was a diver, understood the bends and hyperbaric chambers, and applied this to aging whiskey.
That's pretty cool.
And,
That is very cool.
Super cool, right?
Yeah. If nothing else, it's unique.
Try Climax by Tim Smith. Also a speed-aged whiskey. There's a lot, and so there's a lot of guys, and I think he might do chipping. Tim, I'm sorry if I got that wrong. I don't know for sure, but to get that so some people, they'll actually literally shred the oak and toast the chips, and then submerge the chips in the whiskey. This is now all about surface area.
Yeah.
Right. You're now you have because you can take. You know, the barrel has one side on the inside.
Yep.
But if you can use all 4 sides of the wood, that's almost 4 times the surface area you're talking about, which means 4 times the extraction, blah, 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 blah.
Now you throw chips in
and
there.
now you have a faster aging whiskey. The evaporative processes, if they're not allowed to occur, can impact the final flavor of that. And so I find some speed aged whiskeys, I think they have more vanilla forward note. I think that vanillin in the wood in a lot of these processes gets extracted a little bit faster than the caramels, but often they're quite lovely. Whiskey is just a bullshit story. At the end of the day,
That's the intro clip right there. It's going to be a
whiskey's just a bullshit story.
I mean, you should put it on a T-shirt. Like
we will.
You should put it on a T-shirt.
I should put it on a T-shirt. Right? It's really at the end of the day, it's the product that's coming out. Do you enjoy it? Does it taste good? Do you want to try and drink it on ice or put it in a cocktail?
Yes.
All I'm trying to do here is
Yes.
tell you what you're tasting.
Yeah.
Tell you about the different notes that we think come out of the barrel to it. And then, but at the end of the day, you can, and we have beautiful labels here.
Oh yeah, your
They're
bottles are
great.
beautiful.
You can put a beautiful label on your whiskey, but if what you're drinking, if it doesn't taste good, the proof's always in the pudding, right? And we're really, that we do. That's why we have the crew will come back here in this beautiful space. We'll sample whiskeys. We usually do it very early in the morning before coffee, not because we like to drink at 6 o'clock in the morning, but
no, not at all.
because we need to be able to tell the customer what they're tasting.
Absolutely.
And your palate is really, really fresh. Then you can pick up finer notes.
We used to do the same thing at the bar.
Yeah.
It's a
No, seriously,
yeah.
because I worked in Old Town Alexandria, so it was a little more upper scale. Like every cocktail handmade, all that stuff. So we used to do wine tastings, beer tastings, spirit tastings all the time. Once a quarter, we were changing the menu, and it was the same way. We'd come in on a Sunday, 8 o'clock in the morning, and people would think we're crazy. You'd be like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm doing a tasting at work this morning."
Yeah.
What? Like, yeah, I'm going to be in there for like 3 hours tasting alcohol. Yeah. Probably going to get a little bit of a head buzz at 9 o'clock in the
You
morning.
also can't
well,
day
we
drink
keep
if you
them-
don't start in the morning.
normally we'll sample out of maybe 2 to 3 barrels, and we'll keep that sample low. But it'd be like us. We sit around. The first thing we'll do, we'll pour the whiskeys. I'll draw. I'll tell everyone what we're tasting, what the mash bill is, what the age is, what the proof of the product is, and then everyone gets a small sample, and then we smell. We take a couple of minutes, we really smell, we re-smell, and then everyone writes down what they smell. And then we'll go together and we'll taste, and everyone writes down what they taste, and then we'll talk about it. And then usually me, and then I'll write down, all right, this is the notes that we found on there. And it's really neat when you get a bunch of people in, you sit them down, and you say, hey, all right, guys, here, I'm going to pour this whiskey for you. This whiskey was, laid down in the 15-gallon barrel. It's going to be a very caramel, heavy whiskey on it because of the, just the amount of surface area these small barrel hats have. They really bring some flavor to you. But this one also has 23% wheat in it. So those wheat notes, those grassy notes, those floral notes are going to come through on that. And when I nail one and you see the woman or the man's eyes light up that they tasted what I told them. It just and that's the story.
Yep.
And if I can connect with you like that, I try and connect with your taste buds.
Yep.
I mean, who does that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and if you take the time, if you want, I mean, I've seen every kind of whiskey face there is. I've seen people drink whiskey every kind of way you can think. Some of them are serious about it, and some of them, they just want to come in and have fun. You know what I mean? But most people don't take the time to even taste their food anymore.
No.
People have forgotten that they have they've forgotten that you have smell sensors in the roof of your mouth and you have taste buds in your nostrils.
Yep.
Right? Those things occur.
We can keep going and whenever you want. We're on y'all's schedule.
She just walked in and
When
pointed
she
at her
pointed,
watch.
I don't know. She just did one of these, so I'm guessing she's telling us to wrap
it might
it
be
up.
getting busy back there.
Yeah,
but I mean,
probably.
but the whole idea there is reconnect with your senses.
Yeah.
And this is one way you can do it if that's the kind of thing you like. You know?
One of the things that I learned when I first started drinking liquor as an adult was, but you have that transition when you start drinking liquor as an adult and start enjoying it for the flavors rather than getting blasted like a college kid.
You're not an adult.
But we were in Cabo San Lucas. We were doing a tequila tasting at a hole in the wall place in Cabo. We probably shouldn't have walked in there, but the tequila was amazing. One of the things they told us was to take the sip, swish it, swallow, then breathe out.
Correct.
When I started doing that with whiskey and good whiskey and bourbons, my opinion about them changed.
You know why they tell you to swish it?
Till you get the full flavor
It
palette.
aerates everything, and it coats your tongue,
And
and, you
then
hit all of your taste buds.
Then the breathe out is that finish. You get to taste those finishing notes, but you taste them on the breathe out, and that's really when I started enjoying.
Well, that's where smelling is so important too, because when you fill your nose and then drink, it activates everything, and then you let it roll over your tongue. You don't just swallow it; you actually taste it.
My favorite is bourbon. No matter what the proof it comes in the bottle, we sell 124, we sell 110, 100, 90. I like it at about 70 proof. Maybe add a little water. Maybe add a little ice. Maybe add a little of both if I want to get to that flavor right away, because it's calmed the alcohol down. You know, when you drink we drink barrel proof out of the barrel. When we taste that, the alcohol is evaporating so fast off your palate, you tend to miss a lot of the notes. But down around, I think around like 70, that's where the real kind of, they call it a bouquet sometimes, but there's a lot of more flavors there. And I can find a lot of times on the exhale too, and sometimes in the empty glass even, with just the residue, the smells, I can start to pick out different notes out of there. A lot of times, a lot of times
I've never done that before.
I'll focus more smelling on the empty glass after I've consumed it than on the first note if it's real high, because it's had time to calm down. You're getting more of the smells of the congers and of those other elements in there, and not just alcohol. Alcohol is just ethyl alcohol. It's just a chemical. It's carrying all those flavors forward. That's why McCormick's vanilla extract, if you look on the back, it's 95% pure alcohol. Alcohol is what extracts the flavor. It carries the flavor of the whiskey. Well, that and the water. When it's passing through the still and things. But yeah, so I mean, try it different ways, and see what you can pick up. Yeah. Get yourself a whiskey wheel. You can download one from ADI online, the American Distillery Institute. They have this really cool whiskey wheel you can download and print off, and it'll give you all the possible notes, and then it'll kind of explain, if you want to taste whiskey in this manner, then this is a guide to help you pick that out. They even have like sommelier kits.
Oh, nice.
I say sommelier, but I mean, it's we're stealing that word in our industry. And each one has little vials with all the different possible scents. So when you taste or you smell, then you can use that as a reference. And that's if you really want to get down to the gnat's ass. Yeah, we're not quite that fancy, and so we're not that sophisticated.
I don't think a sommelier's ever said gnat's ass before, but I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, this is whiskey, not wine.
If there's anything I learned about the wine industry, it's that you're going to get a lot more distinct flavors from the whiskey industry than the wine.
But that's
real wine people will sit there and go, whatever you taste is correct.
I've had some expensive bottles of wine.
Be terrible.
But the whiskey that I've had has been better than every wine I've ever had.
Well, and that's a preference, right? Like, everyone's got their own palate. So for you, that's going to be true. For someone else, like my wife can't stand bourbon. Yeah. Right? She just she can appreciate some of them when they're not quite as harsh, on the palate. It's like the root beer one, I think she would actually enjoy because it's a little sweeter. But
bring her by for the moonshine.
Yeah, she's the complete opposite, where wine. Like she doesn't really like beer. She likes Guinness, dark, rich, stout. But other than that, she doesn't want to touch anything. So I'll force her to test stuff and taste it. She's liked a couple old fashions here and there, but complete opposite of you, where you're going, I prefer whiskey to wine every day of the week. Everyone's a little different. Yeah. So you're never wrong. What you taste is what you taste. Don't let anyone tell you differently.
I don't know, Tim.
Bring her out and let her try one of those orange crushes they're making out front, man. That'll boy.
So Wylie, as we wrap up, it's a question that I ask sometimes. What is your two parts? What is your dirt drive? What keeps you on the trail and what keeps you going with your Toyota, just going around? Also, what's your dirt drive for whiskey? What keeps you making whiskey other than it's your income?
Sure, my kids keep me on the trail. Right, I still got little ones, Okay. So I split my time here and with my little ones, and they need to be outside. Yep. And they don't get cell phones. They get trails. They get fishing. They get floats on the river. Yeah, I mean, come to West Virginia. Yeah. It's the most beautiful state. It's got more history than anywhere, and that's what keeps me on the trails, finding those different places. Yep. And we're in the Panhandle. Like, get to the interior. Oh yeah. Don't just stop here. Mm-hmm. It's a great place for if you live in D.C. and you want to get out. It's an hour and a half to get you some country road in the Eastern Panhandle, but go see Seneca and Dolly Sods and Smoke Holes and the New River. And et cetera, et cetera. Yep. I mean,
New River Gorge at night is amazing.
Raw beauty.
Usually I give the audience, our audience, a call to action. Let me give you a call to action. Check out Backroads of Appalachia. Okay. They are supporting motorsports in West Virginia, and they're growing the motorsports industry in West Virginia. I mean, we have a tie with me and Freddie are close buddies with Jed, who is the director of motorsports in Appalachia. But you guys should definitely check them out and get in contact with them, support them, and bring them to the Panhandle.
Every night when you guys put your Jeeps up and you pitch your tent, you got a campfire.
We're gonna have one of these
bottles. That's where the bourbon comes in. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, not behind the wheel, but you got to spend the night somewhere, and it's always nice to have a nightcap after a long day out on the muddy trail.
So what keeps you, other than your income, what keeps you making whiskey? What do you love about it?
Oh my God, the people. Honestly, I mean, when we opened this place, I made the whiskey every single day. We've grown, and now we've got people here. We've got people on site that do kind of a lot of the day-to-day stuff, and somebody's got to talk to the people, and that's typically kind of what my job has become.
Someone's got to taste the alcohol with the guests.
That's my favorite part. That and product development.
Oh yeah,
I love making new things.
You can't.
We're
beat
creators
that.
here.
You're a maker. You're out here.
I mean,
in the workshop,
but it's a team effort, right? I have amazing ideas, but there's no way without the team that is here that we could put any of them in action.
Yeah.
And so, we have an amazing team. My brother-in-law Brian, my partner, my wife Cynthia, my lifelong partner, Ken Walker, our graphic designer and distiller, another great partner here. Ethan, my son, my partner in distribution. Lainey, she runs the front with Nico Schraver. He does a lot of the mashing, and poor guy, he does a lot of the heavy lifting day-to-day stuff. There's a lot of heavy lift. You want to start a distillery, prepare to lift heavy things all day, and get a forklift as soon as you can.
Yeah. Let me give a shout out to Lainey, because I talked to her twice. I talked to her saying, hey, we're with the Dirt Nerds. I know Tom's coming out here later. I'm like, we also have a podcast. Would you guys be interested in us coming out, doing a show, whatever? And we talked for maybe 5 minutes, because me and Tom had to record an episode after that. And then I called her back yesterday, and you guys just wrapped your arms around us and brought us in here and cared for us, and like as cheesy as you cared for us and loved us, offered us whiskey, and just a great place to record and have a great time.
All you got to do is show up.
So yeah,
that's all you got to do.
I'll give a huge shout out to Lainey.
Yeah, thank you so much. And she put this whole thing together.
Yeah.
I mean,
the whole event altogether.
Yeah,
hell
whole
yeah.
event.
Well, it's crazy because I was talking to her.
I stand on all their shoulders.
I was talking to her yesterday. I'm like, so trying to figure out who we're gonna have on the show, and I think the other guys wanted to be on. I think they got busy doing other stuff. It's understandable.
It sounds like it's going pretty well out there.
But Lainey's not even Lainey's not even an off-roader. She's like, I don't know. I think Wylie has a 4Runner and two guys have Jeeps. But like,
she got the loudest truck on the block.
Does she really?
Lainey does. Hey, Lainey, what's in that? What'd you drop in that pickup truck?
Come here, grab a mic.
Oh,
a Frontier.
Oh,
and he put some sort of modified muffler on it. It is loud, and I didn't like it at first, but now I like it because I'm little, so.
Yeah, but that's perfect, because that'll throw people off all day long.
What I don't like is filling the gas tank.
Well, nobody likes doing that, regardless of how big it is.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you have any people you want to shout out? Any of your distributors? Any of the people you work with?
Oh my gosh, how many people we work with. The Blues over at the Blue Farm in Shenandoah Junction, the Wares, local contract farmer here in Jefferson County. Oh my gosh, Design Lab 304, the guy that decorates all of our glassware and things up front. All the people that there's so many people. We do so much business with local companies. Our labels are made up in Hagerstown, but I mean on the backbone, local banking here at the Bank of Charlestown, Insurance Outfitters out of Shepherdstown. We try and keep all of our business in this county as best as we can.
Well, it's a stat that we learned at 24 Hours. I can't remember what he said. Is every dollar that's spent
is spent 7 more times.
7 more times in that community. So every time you spend $1 in your local community, that dollar gets spent like 4 or 7 or however many more times. It multiplies, and it just helps grow everyone.
We buy direct right off the land. Another big shout out the local County Visitors Bureau and the great work they're doing down there. West Virginia Living Magazine. Hey, we won Distillery of the Year for the state of West Virginia.
Oh, yeah. Saw it on the bottle.
The Chamber of Commerce, Heather McIntyre and her crew, we won Business of the Year today. 2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice!
That's
Congrats.
awesome
For this year. So, we have a whole county-wide team of people, and as long as you open a business, you want to participate. They want to participate with you, and the partnerships that you can create and the work you can do. Casanel Wine and Vineyards over in Loudoun County. If you're not drinking wine over at Casanel, oh my gosh,
I've never
you're
heard of
missing
them.
out. It is amazing. They provide us the Chardonnay barrels
Okay.
for our rest.
Is that the one that's just
near Hamilton?
Is that where Alex and Erica got married?
No, that's our landlord's winery.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That's
Hey, look at that.
The landlord that we leased our shop from. That's his winery.
Nice.
That is hysterical.
Well, so where
Yeah, see, small world,
Yeah.
right?
where can people find you guys online? You can know your social media handles, all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
you can find us. So primarily, we're on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us under Devils Due. You can find us in person at 315 James Burr Boulevard in Kearneysville, West Virginia. You can find us occasionally out doing tastings at the local spirit shops, and you can find us throughout Maryland and West Virginia in your local spirit shop if you take a look.
Well, you said South Carolina and North Carolina at some places.
Absolutely. Head out Myrtle Beach and Charleston, select locations.
Okay.
As well as throughout the interior and
I'll have to let
select
my buddy
locations.
who
So you
lives in
just might
Charleston
find
know.
us down there.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Freddie, where can people find you?
Fidget Fred.
Fidget Fred.
Every
Freddie's
time.
He's a regular on the podcast. We love Freddie.
God damn.
But we appreciate it, man. We appreciate the hospitality. We appreciate you guys supporting the off-road community. I know you guys, this is a Jeep event. If I can make a suggestion for the future, make it an off-road event and look at all the cool shit that comes up. Like if you do, instead of being your annual Jeep event, do an annual off-road event, Forerunners, lifted neons, Subarus,
You'd be amazed.
Samurais.
It's wild.
Samurais. You're gonna have dirt bikes. You're
Super
gonna have
bugs.
Super
Yeah.
bugs.
Super
yeah.
bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any-
You'll-
I'd like to see a thing or two.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
get
yeah.
the thing out. Who's got the thing?
Yeah. If you change it to being an all, well, it's 2024. We're all inclusive. We love everyone.
Well, Jeep people will show up to anything off-road.
They will.
That's the beauty of it.
But off-road people will not show up to Jeep
To a Jeep
events
event,
because
yeah.
you're a Toyota guy. Jeep guys have a stigma about them. They're
Well,
Jeep guys. They got ducks.
Toyota and
They got
Jeep.
their waves. They got their whatever. Off-road events will draw a wild crowd.
Yeah.
Not like wild like partying, but like bring out all of their cool vehicles, all of their cool stuff.
No, it'll just be plain wild.
Well, why don't you
Yeah,
help
those
us
guys are
plan
crazy.
it next year, and we'll make a big
Hey,
deal out
hey,
of it.
we
We're all
became-
I
about
love
it.
to make a big deal out
We're
of
all
things.
about it.
We became a host last minute on this event. If you guys want to wrap us in on it next year, we're all about it, man.
All right, sounds
Absolutely.
good.
We'll make it an annual show. We'll come out here, record more, and when we want to drink whiskey and be closer to 81.
And next year we'll have a lot more clear land and a big parking lot too.
There we go.
Hell yeah,
There we
brother.
go. It's a date.
But I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Freddie. I appreciate you, Trevor. Such a cool event. Not such a cool
You
event.
guys got a
such-
whole bromance thing going on here.
He's weird.
I
He's
am
very
weird.
like that.
I am weird.
He doesn't normally get this sentimental at the end of an episode. I don't know why he's doing
No,
it
it's just
now.
it's
but
just
I
cool
think he's
stuff.
tearing
Like,
up.
like
that may just be sweat.
so it's we've talked about it before. It's just the cool experiences that this podcast has taken us to.
Yep.
Like I'm just a guy that likes to go jeeping and hang out in the woods with my buddies, and we tell good stories. But like, for no reason,
We've met a lot of cool people.
It's
too.
right up my alley. That's
Yeah,
what I
it's-
do all day.
But for no reason should me and Trevor, who met in 2017 in the woods, beating our Jeeps around, just being general idiots. No reason should we be here hanging out with you, drinking whiskey at this cool event. I mean,
It's the power of yes right there.
it's just
it's
so
he's not
humbling.
wrong. I mean, it's
so humbling.
we've got to meet a lot of cool people, go to a lot of cool places because of this, and it's brought a whole slew of experiences that.
Like I
you
just
know,
can't stop smiling. It's so fucking
Yeah,
cool.
like it's one of those things you look at and you go, yeah, I may have done some of this stuff, but no way would half of the things we've done ever even been on a bucket list because we just never would have thought of them. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to be able to come out and share experiences like this with people.
And that's
So-
that's where the bromance comes from. I don't take that as a slam at all. Like I do have a bromance. I love all my friends to death. I love what we do. I love the podcast. I love the listeners. Like it's just a cool experience.
Hell yeah.
Every day I'm humbled to do it.
And on that bombshell.
Hey,
you
thanks
guys,
for having me.
Yeah,
man.
of course.
No, absolutely. Thanks for
coming
having
out.
us here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming out, guys.
It's a great space you got. If for anyone listening, if you're close enough, even if you're a little further away, definitely come out. It's an awesome
You want to do the
spot.
sign-off plug, Trevor?
Yeah. Check us out, dirtnerdsoffroad.com. Check out Devils Due Distillery online. Fidget Fred, our boy over here. And for everyone who's listening, thanks again. We'll see you next time.
See you next week.
Cheers.
Bye.